Welcome to REM Reward, the podcast that explores the secrets of sleep and psychology. I'm your host, Ryan, and in each episode, we'll dive deep into the world of sleep and other topics such as mental well-being and personal growth. If you want to unlock your full potential and receive the rewards that come with understanding the power of sleep, you're in the right place. To discover more tips and insights on improving your sleep and overall well-being, visit our website and explore our other episodes at remreward.org. Today we have a special guest with us, Stacey Antine. Stacey is a renowned nutritionist and the founder of HealthBarn USA, an innovative organization dedicated to teaching children and their families about healthy eating and living. With a background in food and nutrition, Stacey has been a powerful advocate for integrating wellness into everyday life. In this episode, we dive deep into the intersection of nutrition and sleep, exploring how a balanced diet can enhance sleep quality and overall well-being. We'll discuss common health issues facing children and teenagers today, the impact of poor nutrition on sleep and cognitive function, and practical strategies to encourage healthier eating habits. Stacey will also share insights on mindful eating, the role of physical activity in nutrition, and how stress affects our dietary choices. Stay tuned for an enlightening conversation filled with valuable tips and expert advice on promoting better sleep and health through nutrition. Perfect. Okay, so for my first question, can you just tell our audience a bit about your background in food and nutrition and what motivated you to start HealthBarn?
Sure. So my background is, I'm Stacey Antine. I actually don't have my initials in there, but my background is I have a master's in nutrition, and I'm also nutrition, food, and dietetics, and I'm also a registered dietitian. And I completed that in, I guess it was 2003, and I had worked in the food industry prior to that on health and nutrition. And then when I got the degree, that's when I kind of opened my eyes about what was going on with children, how they were eating, because I was seeing it firsthand. And when I was doing my ambulatory work as part of the dietetics, it's almost like nursing or doctor's degree. You have to do 1,200 hours. You're in a hospital, you're
Right.
in food service, you do a variety of different rotations. So I would see kids coming in with like big gulp sodas, or they had gained a few pounds because they got weighed in. And I always felt badly that they got weighed in on the scale. I just thought, oh my gosh, how embarrassing. Like I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want to do that. And, so that was kind of how I got really involved with kids. I think I really related to that shame, I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this with regards to education, because most kids, if you don't know any better, you're just going to do what's around you, what other kids are doing, or what is happening in your family. So once you get educated, you can make better choices.
Yeah. And I guess going along those lines, like what are HealthBarn's like main objectives and I guess some programs offered there?
Well, the main objective, I always say this, is like strong bodies, healthy minds. And that's our slogan. Like we want to empower families, because kids are part of the family. Like they're not, of course, young adults have more flexibility, but children, until you're really in college, you're kind of part of the family nucleus. Like mom and dad are probably, or grandpa or grandma are making the dinner. You have a little more autonomy when it comes to lunch. But when you're younger, your parents are packing the lunch, or you're buying it at school. So the idea is we want to empower families to lead strong and energetic lives, because as we know, like whether and really that comes down to our 7 healthy habits, which is eat your fruits and vegetables, exercise, eat breakfast, get a good night's sleep, family meals, brush and floss your teeth, and recycle, because that's a bigger concept with the planet. Like, given the heat right now, we as human beings need to be more aware of not just ourselves, but what our actions, whether it's food, whether it's use of things like our materialism, and how that's impacting the planet. So basically how we accomplish the strong bodies, healthy minds is through our 7 healthy habits. That's the core of all of our programming, whether it's camp or seasonal food, or seasonal classes or holiday camps, birthday parties. That's pretty much the foundation of HealthBarn. We talk about it on field trips. And as you know, like I know REM reward, I know
Yeah.
sleep is really important to this podcast.
Hmm.
And I'm happy, I'm really excited that to be invited on here because usually I'm talking about nutrition and food. And you can't really talk about the two, they intersect. And I
Yeah.
know the importance of it. So I'm actually interested. I'm really kind of excited to talk about it from a sleep perspective.
Yes. And yeah, going along those lines, this is perfect. Like what are some common misconceptions about children's health, like especially in like maybe sleep and nutrition? Like maybe people don't think they're as related as they are.
Well, how I view it is that it's kind of like when does it start, right?
Mm.
So if a child doesn't sleep well, you're exhausted.
Yeah.
So this is how I could say it. Let's say you're on your devices, you don't get a good night's sleep, you're worried about what your friends are doing, you have FOMO, you're like, oh my gosh, like what am I doing? I can't sleep, I have bad dreams, or you could be younger and you have bad dreams, right?
Hmm.
So what
Right.
happens is that if you don't sleep well, um, and you're like you don't get your 8 hours and your REM if you're in that window,
Right.
you wake up exhausted. You actually don't wake up energized and refreshed because your mind and your body should be like ready to go, but usually your mind is not.
Yeah.
And then what happens is that you want energy. You want a quick energy because you're like, oh, I'm dragging, right? So
Hmm.
that's why many children, like teens, middle schoolers, are drinking coffee, which
Yeah.
is crazy because that's really just creating more of a problem. So or I had some athletes that were exhausted and they're binging on gummy bears in the morning
Mhm. Really?
because
Wow.
they're so tired. Yeah, because they're so tired. So what your body is telling you is I need a quick boost of energy, whether it's going to come from a Coke, whether it's going to come from coffee, like a caffeine, something, Red Bull, whatever, or it's going to come from a high sugar source, a carbohydrate, because your body and you know that you need quick energy. And what that means is it could be orange juice, but most people aren't really reaching for fruit.
Yeah.
It could be candy, or it's sugared cereal. It's something sugary, something sugar related, because what happens is once you get that sugar, you get that your mind gets that little buzz, and somehow then it gets you going. And you can almost tell, like the kids that, like in school, if they had their heads down or they're like
Hmm.
dragging, I mean, that's a constant non-sleep. So it's not like you had one night's sleep badly. It was like you've had like 3 to 4, 5. Like for adults, it might feel like a hangover, but kids can't
Right.
really talk about it.
Yeah.
Like they're like it's and what happens is your body and your mind is saying, how do I fix this? I need something. And it's like I said, it's either going to be a caffeine or it's going to be a simple sugar. And so you can't blame like if a kid, like a lot of teens, and even that they never grow out of it, have this like sugar addiction,
Hmm.
like it's plaguing everybody. But if you look at it, it's like if they fix the sleep patterns, maybe it could actually fix the sugar addiction because it's
Yeah.
like a yo-yo cycle. It's like the more you eat the sugar, you're not going to sleep, you're not going to your mind's not going to die. So if you don't actually fix the sleep, then your body is just really surviving. That's how it's surviving. It's not craving like a hamburger
Yeah.
because the hamburger is a protein and fat, and that's not going to give you that quick energy. So it's so fascinating, but it's really important. And I always say that, during your sleep also is when you burn the calories. Your
Really
body burns the most calories when it's sleeping. Yes. So if
interesting.
you're not sleeping, they find that people that are obese that have a lot more weight they don't sleep well because they're not in their full capacity of sleep where their body is fully burning the calories, or they're up at night roaming around eating like
Yeah.
the late night munchies.
Yes. Um, I guess going along with that, what are some strategies you recommend to encourage like children to eat and live healthier? And also like how can these strategies also help with like better sleep habits in general?
Well, the way I mean, I think that if you go down, you really need to look at your sleep ritual, right? So how do you get ready for bed? Especially kids, like, okay, when kids are little, they take a bath, they have bath time,
Mm-hmm.
they get read to the book, right? You get a book at night, you're sleeping, you get tucked in. There's you get your little stuffed animal. There's like all these little things. You brush and floss your teeth. There's all these things that happen that your parents create this ritual. And then as you get older, that ritual, you outgrow the ritual perhaps, or you haven't maintained a ritual that's yourself. Hopefully, you're brushing and flossing your teeth.
Yeah.
But if you're if you're doing video games at night, or you're on your phone, or if you're even watching television, um, there's these are all bad habits that are actually eating away at your ritual of sleeping. So I really think that people need to do almost like, in the dietary world, it's like if you gain weight, you say, okay, take a food recall. Like, look at what I've eaten in the last 2 days, and you keep track of what you eat, how much, how you feeling, etc. You could take a sleep journal and say, what time did I go to sleep? Another thing is that, are you eating late? So if you have a big meal, let's say, I keep bringing us hamburger because it's like teenagers, or you
Yes.
have like, you have pizza, let's say, and
Mm-hmm.
you have that at 9 o'clock at night, and you're going to sleep at 10. I mean, that's just like laying on your stomach, and
Yeah.
it's hard to digest. Your body's trying to digest. So definitely eat earlier and lighter. You could have a snack or something, but not the meal at 9. Because I've done private counseling for athletes, and like if they're playing their sports and they don't get home till 10, 11 o'clock, they're
Yeah.
starving, and they'll have a meal then. And it's like, that's going to create all kinds of problems with their sleep. So you have to first take an inventory of like, what does my night look like? When am I off the phone?
Mm-hmm.
When am I starting my routine? Because it should be starting, like if you're trying to get to bed by 10, you should literally be shutting down by 9.
Yeah.
Like just start winding down. Like you don't even have to do something, but shut the computer off, read a book. You could do art, you could listen to music, you could play a musical instrument, you could
Mm-hmm.
play the guitar, like something that's going to use the other side of the brain. And you don't want that light exposure,
Yeah.
whether it's television, that it's like a continuous noise, whether it's on video games, there's just like this, it's like it's a, even like think about, I don't know how people look at the TikTok. Those videos are like,
Yes. Yeah. Keeps
I
you up.
mean, yeah, I mean it's hard for your brain to just, it's really hard to process.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say a sleep inventory first. Like what does my nighttime routine look like? And that would be during the week and on the weekend.
Yeah.
Both, because it's different. Like Friday nights, like all bets are off, right? I'm
Yeah.
sleeping at my
Yes.
friend's house. I'm like, I don't have school tomorrow. I'm going to be up till 2 in the morning. I mean, this is what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And and then you don't get up until 12 because you don't have to get up for school. And now you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so out of it. Like, what am I going to eat? And then it all starts. But
Yeah.
it's only 2 nights essentially, because then you got to get back on the wagon like on Sunday. And
Yeah.
so that's not good. That's like almost, you want to be more consistent. You don't want these highs and lows. That's
Right.
not a good situation. But of course it comes up, like you still want to have a good time, but it's
Yeah.
all in moderation.
Yeah. I love that advice. Thank you. And I think you talked about how like a poor diet can like worsen your sleep quality, but I guess on the other hand, like how does a balanced diet contribute to like overall well-being and maybe improve sleep quality or yeah, your sleep in general?
Well, I tell people that it's so hard because everybody's individual and they all have their likes and
Yeah.
dislikes. But at the end of the day, if you're just adding fruits and vegetables into your diet, so like if you have breakfast, have a fruit. If you're having a snack, like let's say you have pretzels, like make sure that you have an apple, or you have grapes, or you have celery sticks or carrot sticks or something. Like
Hmm.
don't just eat the pretzels. Have a
Right.
banana. Have a banana and peanut butter. So I just think that, people get overwhelmed with this concept of eating better. And then they get on these diets, they're on
Yeah.
keto, they're on Whole 360. It's like, guess what? Let's just now look at our eating. Are we eating consistent? Are we eating breakfast? Are we having a snack? Are we having lunch? Is lunch skipped because you're too busy and you have 20 minutes to eat? Am I starving at 4 o'clock? So I'm eating like Doritos and whatever I can get my hands on.
Yeah.
And then I'm having a Coke because I need to stay up. And then dinner is like, I'm not really sure what it is, but depends on what I feel like eating. And then now you're expecting to go to sleep and have a normal sleep.
Yeah.
So what you can do is you could start with just looking at the quality of the food and just adding fruits and vegetables to each meal. So like don't eat a meal. So try to get your meals, try to eat your 3 meals and possibly 2 snacks or at least one. And then for every time you're eating, just add a fruit or vegetable and just start to see how your mind feels.
Yeah.
Forget your body, it's your mind.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just because what you're trying to do is you're trying to basically level out your blood sugar. Because if your blood sugar is all over the place, then you're going to wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, I need candy. Candy makes me feel better. That's what happens.
Yeah.
I've had so many kids tell me that like, I need like gummy bears because they make me feel better. I'm like, okay, let's like, and then I would say, if you're telling me that, what I would say, and this is like super dramatic, I would get off the sugar. I would have a breakup with sugar. I'd be
Really.
like, you know what? It's time to break up with sugar. And
Yeah.
I've told people that I'm like, you need to break up with sugar. And they're like, I can't do that.
Yeah. It's very hard. It seems very hard. Yeah. Um, and then yeah, going along those lines, like with snacks and meals,
Or
like
just replace, you could replace the sugar with a fruit sugar. So
yeah.
like replace sugar with apples or bananas. Like bananas are high in sugar.
hmm Yeah. Natural sugars are a lot better. Yeah. Um, and then going along with that, so like how does I know you briefly mentioned this, like how does the timing of meals and snacks throughout the day like impact your health and energy levels? I guess and also regard to sleep, but just maybe in general.
Not so much. I mean, I think energy levels, you want to stay consistent with your food consumption and you want to
Mhm.
make sure that you're eating like a good balance, right? But you can see, I always tell people because they're always like, oh, I'm starving or I forgot this. I mean, people are busy now, like more than ever before. So I always say, eat the meal before you're starving. That's like rule number one, right? So you get up in the morning, you have your little routine. You could even have like a little meditation in the morning, like just to kind of like calm down. Most people wake up and they just get on their phones.
Yeah.
And this is like a really bad habit. In fact, this is a bad habit in that way because, for example, um, I don't have an old school alarm clock. This is my
Yeah.
alarm clock. And then what happens is this goes off and all of these notices happen. And
hmm
I'm like, oh, I open my eyes and I'm like checking the weather. I'm checking social.
Right.
I'm checking my emails. I mean, it's so crazy. I just wake up and I'm doing this. So what I've done now is I'm not using this as my alarm clock. I'm actually, and the other great thing that, I mean, I'm not a big fan of this stuff, but on the health cycle, it actually, for the iPhones, and I'm sure it's on Androids or whatever, but they have a whole sleep trend in here. You can track your sleep on here.
Really, I did not know that. That's super
There's sleep.
interesting.
They can, yeah, on this app, it's the health app.
Yeah,
It's
on
called
Apple.
Health.
Yeah.
It tracks your steps and it also it tracks your sleep. So if you go to bed at 7:21, which is the time I set for myself, then it tells me how many hours and if I really did get it. I mean, it's kind of like crazy because you don't really want to rely on this, but if you want to check it, you can.
Yeah.
But I've gone back to my old school way of an alarm clock
Yeah.
so that I don't touch this
I think it's a
because
great.
this is a bad habit.
hmm
So my alarm clock hits, I wake up, I get myself like, put water on my face or whatever. And then I have like a meditation practice for a good half hour. And then I'm like, okay, I need to eat something. but I'm more mindful of the eating. I'm not like on this thing. Oh my God, I'm starving. I just waited because you literally, if you get up in the morning and you're in bed, which is what everybody does, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Checking everything, and you watched a TikTok and it had some crazy like recipe on it, right?
Mhm.
And then you get up and you're like, I'm starving. I mean, this is not a good way of starting. And then you're just like, oh, I'm so tired. I'm starving. Like I need coffee. This is what I'm hearing young people tell me.
Yeah.
And or I had chips for breakfast. I hear that, like salt and vinegar chips. Um, so basically you're mindlessly like, where are you? Where are you in the day?
Hmm.
So if you're like that when you wake up, where are you when you're sleeping, when you're
Right.
going to bed?
Yeah. I love
You
that.
should have a similar practice. Like, okay, so I'm getting ready to go to bed and I'm going to shut my eyes for 10 minutes and you could set your alarm. And let me close my eyes and see what percolates. Like, did something come up in school that really upset me? And like I kind of parked it and I didn't really deal with, or oh, that was such a great day. I was so
Hmm.
happy. I did really well in school. And so you can kind of, some people are doing gratitude journals. Like
Yeah.
they'll have a little journal and they'll write like they instead of focusing on the negatives, they'll say, okay, this is what went well today. This is what I'm grateful for. And just you could literally say these are whatever, 4, 5, 3 things I'm grateful for. Shut it, close your eyes and meditate for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then never touch the phone. Get into bed, put some music on. You could, I mean, people could use lavender like essential oils, like just to calm down their nervous system. You could have herbal tea, put on some nice music. I don't like, there's drumming now. There's like all kinds of stuff to help with
Hmm.
sleep. And rather than be on this thing or you're on your, you're playing your games, you're talking to friends, the last conversation you had with a friend could upset you. You
Yeah.
don't know,
Yeah.
you know? It's like you need to tune the world out, is what you're like, okay, I'm important. This is like the self-care movement. Like no one else is in my bed, right? I'm in my
Yeah.
bed. I'm in my room. I'm safe. I'm like, I'm alive. And guess what? I don't need this thing because
Yeah.
everything bad in the world is happening. And I am going to have a great night's sleep because I need it in order to face the next day.
Hmm.
And you wake up and you're like, wow, I'm grateful that I have a next day. I'm alive. I'm healthy. I have a lot of things going for me. I have food. I mean, these are like basic stuff,
Yeah.
but we're so like, we're on another planet. We're like, our minds are somewhere else. And then what happens is, and you have the pressure, like if you're an athlete, say, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, well, you got to get the scholarship. That's how I see the kids. What happens is they're in a situation where um, they're really good, but they're just not good enough for those scholarships.
Hmm.
And what'll happen is in high school, then the coach will say you need to see a nutritionist or you need to see somebody because they're
Yeah.
just like
Close. Yeah.
shy of what they need, right? And then when they see me and it's like, well, I'm coming home at 11 and I'm eating gummy bears or I'm having Swedish fish for breakfast.
Wow.
It's like, no wonder they're not, because they're exhausted.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of pressure on them because they've got to, or hey, I'm really slow. I worked with a hockey player and he's like, I'm really slow. My coach told me I should eat eggs and bacon before a game. And it's like eggs and bacon are never going to fuel you to what you need for like a game. So we had like pre-workout and we had a pre-game meal and a training day meal. So we had a menu for the training day
Yeah.
and the game day. And it was like one of my favorite recipes is the sweet potato pancake. And he said it was like a game changer for him. He's like, I had the sweet potato pancakes. I have them on my game day and I am totally energized. Now, I didn't ask him about his sleep, but I know that he felt he wasn't dragging. And that
Hmm.
was the thing. And like, I think as athletes, it's like really tough because when you're not, when you're dragging and your body has the capacity, but something is holding you back.
Yeah.
And that's when you're going for these goos and gums and stuff, caffeine things to just get you to the next level because you don't have it within you to do it because your body's not fueled.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really like going back to that alarm clock you had, like changing that. I know, especially in like current day, everyone uses their phone for alarm clocks, and you wake up, you see it. I also wanted to ask just about like a question I had, like about meditation. How have you seen like benefits from that in the morning and at night? Is it like something that's like part of your ritual now that you do every day? Is it like a staple type of thing you do?
Yeah.
And have you
Yeah.
seen a lot of benefits?
If I don't meditate in the morning, I'm like, my day is gone, like goes sideways.
Really?
So, yeah, because I feel like it's a really calming situation,
Yeah.
like, and it kind of puts everything in perspective. And you're kind of like, okay, so I just need to be calm inside. And I think most people are like
Hmm.
most people on the inside are calm. And what happens is that when the anxiety comes up, the anxiety might come up, which you need to be aware of the anxiety, right? So the anxiety could come up with, um, like, oh my gosh, I have this test, or I don't really feel like going to school today, or this teacher has been really tough with me. I don't really want to face it. Like you don't even aware of like, and I'm just talking like clinical anxiety. It's just you get
Yeah.
anxious, right?
Yeah.
And with that comes, so if you're not aware of that and you're able to cope, like, hey, I have the resources to deal with this. What happens is you start eating your sugared cereal, you start eating stuff that maybe is potato chips for breakfast. You're doing all these things. You're not thinking like, okay, what would be a really good breakfast for me to have? Like
Hmm.
in your meditation, you could actually set like, what's my day going to be like? You could actually set it, kind of like get yourself ready. And if anybody trips you up, you just say, like, this is what's on my day. Like, I didn't plan for this and I'm not going to deal with it,
Yeah.
unless you have to. And then you it's like your sacred space is your room, because your room is the only place that you don't have to allow all this other exterior noise and people and information that's upsetting. Like you should really view your room as your sanctuary,
Yes. Yeah.
and it's the time where you do not need to allow the outside world in.
Hmm.
It's, I mean, it's just the reality. How you can't really protect yourself otherwise. It's like why people feel good in a library. If you go to the library, it's so quiet, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, wow, I can think, I can study, I can focus. I'm not eating. Because then if you're on these devices, you're just like snacking,
Yeah. You don't even
snacking.
realize. Yeah.
And then you're home and you're kind of like, "Ugh, I feel sick. I don't feel great. I'm tired. I'm having another soda. I'm really tired." And then you're trying to go to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the idea of, I think it's really important to emphasize the idea of like your room being someplace to relax and kind of being your sanctuary. And then also want to ask, like, could you explain the concept of like mindful eating? Like I've heard that term a lot. I think the term gets put around a lot, and like maybe health benefits or just what it is in general. Yeah.
Well, mindful anything is really just being present,
Mm,
right? So unfortunately, the majority of people today you're either worrying about what's going to be what's happening, the future, or you're worrying about something that happened in the past. So
right.
mindfulness is really bringing your awareness to the present. Like right now, you and I are on this podcast, right? And we're having a great conversation. I'm
Yes. Yeah.
not thinking about what I'm going to cook for dinner, right? And I'm not stressed out like, oh, I need to go do something, because
Hmm.
I'm present on this podcast. And unfortunately, you're talking to people, but their minds are like other places.
Yeah.
And we need to bring our minds back to the present, because in the present, that's really all that matters. And that's the only thing you can control, because you can't control the future And the past is like a canceled check. It's over. It's done. You can't repeat it. I mean, you don't want to repeat something that you know isn't a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you basically need to be present, meaning if you're sitting there, if you say, okay, I'm going to make something, like I always think also like in the morning, it's tough. You could do overnight oats. You could prepare the night before, like part of your ritual for the nighttime situation could be like, I really want to eat breakfast because I feel better when I eat breakfast. So I'm going to prepare as part of my ritual, my overnight oats. I'm going to get oats, almond milk, blueberries, banana, a little peanut butter, and I'm going to put it in the fridge. And so you already have prepared for yourself the next day. So when you wake up, you're like, okay, I'm taking care of myself. And your mind, you're present that you did it. You're going to have your overnight oats. And you're not sitting down and thinking, yeah, I'm starving and, I need to get to school. So I'm just going to and all you're thinking about is like, I'm going to miss the bus. I'm going to miss the
Mm-hmm.
bus. And you're not eating what's in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
You're with this bowl of sugared cereal because you're exhausted from the night before. You're eating like one thing. You just keep pouring the box.
Yeah.
And all you're thinking is as you're eating is I'm going to miss the bus. My parents are going to be honking any minute. You didn't even have your breakfast.
Yeah.
I mean, this is how we're living.
Mm-hmm.
So, so that's why I'm saying you almost have to back it up. Like, so maybe you have to get up a half hour earlier, which means you have to go to bed. You got to go to bed earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get up earlier and be in your best self if you're going to bed at midnight. You can't do it. So you're like, okay, I need more time in the morning because I'm like a train wreck. I'm like, I can't think, I can't get myself organized, and I'm so stressed out. And that's how you're starting the day. You're getting your coffee, whatever you're drinking, right? So basically, what you want to do is back it up. So say, okay, so I need to create this ritual that could actually be some preparation for the next day. And I'm gonna back up my whole sleep pattern. So, I'm gonna start getting ready at 8:30. Do you realize how it does? If you think about it, Brian, I want you to challenge yourself.
Yeah.
If you think about this, what does it matter if it's an hour extra in your sanctuary?
Mm-hmm.
What does it matter if think about that 1 hour earlier to get yourself ready and just take time for yourself,
Yeah.
to put your gratitude journal and go to sleep? What is that in your lifespan? It's nothing.
Yeah. Very little. Yeah.
But it's good for your mental health. It's good for your physical health. And maybe you don't feel it I think you would feel it within the next day. You'd be
I
like,
think it'd make a
wow,
big impact. Yeah.
I actually did. Yeah, I mean, you could actually, because people are so distracted. So once you become mindful, like, wow, I'm around this person all the time and I don't really enjoy their company. And so it's I don't have to break up with my friend, or I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to send a horrible text. I could just say, I'm just kind of busy. This person doesn't make me feel good. Because you want to be, when you're mindful, when you start practicing mindfulness of being present, you could be like, wow, this person is really intense. And when I'm with them, I'm kind of anxious and I don't feel really good. Or this person's, constantly texting me at 11 o'clock at night and I can't get off my phone and I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be mindful of also the people around you. You can be mindful of the food. You could be mindful of your sleep patterns. You could be mindful of um, a host of things, like what can what are the things in my life that aren't really working for me? They don't make me feel good.
Yeah. Thank you for that advice. I really love that. And then I guess for my final question is, do you just want to share anything else that's been on your mind that you really wanted to leave our audience thinking about in regards to maybe sleep, nutrition, or anything else?
I would just say that I'm going to be really hugely unpopular right now, but I would say that I think you need to be really take an inventory of the sugar intake. And
Right.
if I mean, sugar is in ice cream. Like people are eating ice cream like I've never seen before.
Yeah.
Like it's fat and sugar, and then they're complaining and then they're not eating dinner because they want to eat. So basically, right now, even in the winter, all these ice cream places are open in the winter. It used to be like it used to be that you had ice cream places only available during the summer because everyone would eat it as a treat, but now people are lining up in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that if you're having sugar, like whether it's candy, candy bars, ice cream, whatever you're doing, and it's more than, I mean, if it's even once a day, so if you're having it like 2, 3 times a day, I think you need to break up with sugar, like
Yeah.
a major breakup. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe you could just break up for a week, and see how it goes. And if it's really not easy, you're going to get the headaches, you're going to get all that. And you could say, okay, could I cut back to, you know, 3 times a week? So you
Yeah.
start to do it. But first, you have to have like a breakup
Yeah.
because it's really wreaking havoc on the mind, the body, emotions, sleep. I mean, I can go on and teeth. I could go, I mean, honestly. And I think the number one thing I see and I hear is this problem that people have with all of these, the cakes, the cookies, the cupcakes, the candy bars, and it's not young kids. It's like maybe it started when you're young, and then and then middle school and high school it continues, and college it's like rampant, and then all of a sudden you're like, what's wrong with me? I don't even recognize myself. So everyone has so much to offer. We're really kind of wasting our time as it's a big distraction as to what you want to accomplish in your life.
Yeah.
I even think it's bigger than your mind or your body. It's like the dumbing of your life. You're kind of like, wait, what am I doing with my life? I'm just wasting it on like my next obsession is like what flavor of ice cream I'm going to try.
Right.
I mean, there's like you can do a lot in your life, and I feel like it's a huge like if you're thinking like, oh, what's the new flavor I got to try, or what's that topping, you really have to reflect and say, wow, I got to pull back here because if this is the priority right now, I'm the priority, and I have so much to do in my life, and I'm like a really good person. Like this is a huge distraction, and I need to rein it in and take control and not give it up to sugar. So
Right.
that's
Yeah.
that's my big thing.
Yeah. I think it's really important. It's not really talked about enough how important like your diet is to basically every aspect of your life. And then I think going off that, those are all the questions I had for today. I really appreciate you coming on. I think everyone listening will also appreciate it as much as I did.
Yeah, keep up the good work. This is so
Thank you.
great that you focused. So why do you want to focus? Did you ever struggle with sleep, or was this something that you feel passionate about?
Yeah, it's both. When I was younger, like you said, video games, bad eating habits, stress from sports, a lot of it definitely had some struggles with sleep. And also it's like a big part of my life. So I wanted to educate others just like me who were struggling with sleep. It's very prevalent, and I don't think people talk about it enough. So kind of inspired me and I wanted to
Yeah,
take initiative. So yeah.
great. Well, see, this is what you're doing. You're being productive.
Yes. I'll make sure to link everything down below in the bio. And thank you again.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks so much. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you for tuning into the REM Reward Podcast. Before you go, we'd appreciate your support by subscribing, liking, and leaving your thoughts in the comments. Stay tuned for our next podcast, where we will be joined by a special guest speaker to explore even more about the fascinating world of sleep and psychology.